So yeah, how are you anyway?
Yeah, going pretty well. Yeah, things have been pretty busy for me lately, so just feeling a little bit exhausted with it all, but
I
yeah,
can
it's going
understand it.
well.
Yeah, and then you get
Yeah.
people in the UK interrupting your dinner when you're trying to have a bit of a relax. It's just never the greatest thing in the world, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think you should agree with me. So
I'm
I do have some
joking.
questions for you, if that's okay. Let me get some. Oh, people have been talking in the chat. They seem very excited to see you.
Awesome.
So I was going to ask you. Um, so I might as well start off with some basics then. So you've been vegan for how long now?
Just over 5 years as of
Same as
February. I
me.
hit 5 years. Yeah, awesome.
And did you go into activism pretty much straight away, or were you just like just the vegan lifestyle for a while, and then just thought, nah, actually, I'm doing it.
Sort of. Like, I didn't know that any animal rights groups existed until maybe 6 or several months into being vegan, but I did go vegan overnight and I became passionate so quickly. I used my social media platform as
Oh,
a
okay,
way to advocate for animal rights. Like, literally, the
straight
day of
away.
going vegan, I was posting about it. I was so passionate about it. And I just wanted everyone to know the truth. So basically, yeah, I became an activist straight away too.
All right, okay. So, but obviously that was just like you say, putting social media posts on and etc., rather than the kind of activism you do at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, a lot different to what I do at the moment, but
Yeah,
yeah, it
it's
it progressed over
so.
time,
What was your
and yeah.
general inspiration for anyone who doesn't know out there? I mean, obviously, you've gone for most of your life. Were you omnivorous at that point, or vegetarian before?
Yeah, I was omnivore, and I watched the documentary Food Choices. It's on
Okay.
Netflix. I'm not sure if it still is on Netflix, and yeah, that just opened my mind and made me realize that I was such a hypocrite going against my morals that I became driven to change immediately after watching that documentary.
You know,
And it was very good because it covered the benefits of a plant-based diet, saying you don't need to be eating animal products, obviously touching on the inherent animal cruelty and exploitation and the environmental impacts. And just learning all of that, I said, well, now I know it's unnecessary, so I'm not going to be contributing to this atrocity anymore.
well, that's it. We've been told a lot of lies over our lifetimes, haven't we? Where you've been told that you need milk for calcium and protein for this, and you can't get your B12 from anywhere else. You get all these things told to you, so it builds up these barriers and these brick walls in your mind that you use to sort of that are harder to scale over. But again,
Yeah, exactly.
if you start seeing documentaries like the ones you said and Dominion, which I know you like to get the word out about Dominion quite a lot for
Mm.
obvious reasons. But yeah, that knocks walls down pretty quick when you watch that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just a huge eye opener. And I just couldn't imagine living any other way. I just can't believe that I wasn't vegan for 23 years of my life. I always had a very close relationship with non human animals and considered myself to be an animal lover. I know when I was a child, after watching the movie Babe, that opened my eyes and I didn't want to eat animals again. But I don't actually remember this, but my parents must have obviously believed that I needed to be eating animal products. And unfortunately, like, that was forgotten after that. And I continue to eat animals.
Well, yeah, I mean, parents only want to do the best for the children. They've been brainwashed, to be fair,
Yeah.
the same as the rest
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
world, and they think they're doing their children a disservice. And as a parent, you really just want to do the best for your children, and that they think it's the best because they've been told milk makes you have strong bones, milk does this, and it's really difficult for them to get past that because they think they're going to even as a vegan myself, and I've got 4 children, all of them vegan. Uh, every now and again it just pops in my head, if I don't mean this in a terrible way, but it pops in your head every now and again because of the programming in your head that it's hard to get rid of, even when you've been
Exactly.
vegan for over 5 years. If your kid gets a sniffle, or your kid does, it's not feeling very well, or something else, you're thinking, I hope they're getting all the nutrition they need. But in the back, they're getting all the nutrition they
Yeah.
need. It's just it's in there. So it's
Yeah.
really even when you're
It is.
a practicing vegan, it's hard to get it all out of your brain. You know, it's
Definitely.
because for instance, I'm not a religious person. You know, I don't. Sorry for anyone. I'm not having a go at religion for anyone who is religious, by the way. But even now and again, you know, if you're having a hard time, you know, sort of God comes into your mind, because when I was a child, it was like hymns and God and religion, and so even once something's got into you as a child, it's really hard to shift as an adult. So I understand people's struggles. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember being very concerned when I first went vegan, which is unusual because I remember within the first week I was feeling really great. Like, I've always been a very health focused person, so I've always been fit and healthy, but I just remember feeling the benefits immediately. But still, like in the early stages of being a vegan, like some things I would start to worry about, even though I was feeling great. You know, if I got a couple of pimples, I was like, oh no, maybe it's because I'm vegan. Like, it really is ingrained, even though I knew that it was okay at the same time. Yeah,
No, I know
it's
what you
just
mean, because
very ingrained.
I mean, I've never really had sort of like spots or anything, but recently I've got sort of like this sort of rash coming on my face, and people go, oh, that's because you're vegan, and it's not. It's because I switched to a different shaving foam and I've had a reaction to it. But
Yeah,
some people
right.
I mean, I think I need fish. No, it's nothing to do with that. I had a reaction to something, so that's what that is. Before anyone on YouTube goes, oh, look at him, he's deteriorating. It's not that at all. But yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? So
Yeah.
as you said then, and I think this is something Joy was mentioning before, when you actually decided to go from sort of social media activism, etc., to the type of, would you call your activism disruptive activism? Would that be the title for it, or if it had a
Yeah, I think
title?
that's the perfect description for it. Yeah,
Okay,
disruptive
so when
activism.
did you switch to that kind of activism? Can you just give us a rundown for anyone who's not sure what that is?
Yeah, so disruptive activism it kind of speaks for itself. Like, it's a disruptive style of activism. The purpose of it is to disrupt the social norms, and usually that's by entering the places that are selling the violence and shouting and, disrupting in any other form. Yeah, whether that's speaking out loudly with a megaphone, playing the screens of animals inside slaughterhouses, etc. And the purpose of it is to grab media attention and spread that message through the media to, thousands, if not millions of people. So,
Yeah.
yeah, for example, yeah, I'll go into the supermarket or a restaurant, fast food chain, anywhere where there's violence occurring. I'll go in there and disrupt, which means I'm speaking out really loudly. And I like to use a lot of creativity in my activism as well. So I think my most common kind of costume that I'll use is a slaughterhouse costume. So I've
I
got the
like that
blood
costume.
over me, and yeah, I'm playing the screams of the animals, and it's just very obviously visual, and listening to the animals screaming, it really is disruptive. I mean, you
No,
can't
no,
help
it
but
is.
stop and look and listen.
I mean, I can put myself back to before I was vegan, and I can imagine that playing absolute havoc with it plays havoc with my mind when I hear the screams now. But
Yeah.
I can get through it more because I know I'm not contributing towards it. But while you're in the middle of still contributing towards that kind of disgusting sort of treatment of animals, then it's gonna have an effect on you. And I think Joy actually had a question about this form of activism, didn't you, Joy?
Yeah, I did. That's because sometimes I look at comments or criticism that you get. Um, a lot of people seem to be all for the whole, being loud, showing up with a costume with the fake blood on it, and showing images, and making people aware of it in the moment. But one thing that a lot of people criticize is the mess you sometimes make, like the fake blood that you're pouring over the floor and stuff like that. Is there a specific purpose that you have with creating that mess?
Yes, sorry, it sort of just cut out at the end of
Oh,
what you were
sorry.
saying. Could you just repeat the last bit? It's
The
just a
last bit
little
was
bit dodgy with the.
right, right. The last part I said was, is there a specific purpose that you have with leaving a mess, quote unquote?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the main purpose of it is to not even reach people in that moment. It is to grab media attention, and the after effect of those protests is just astounding. I mean, I've been able to reach people all over the globe with the message of animal rights and the message to watch Dominion on YouTube. And I visibly have a collection of screenshots in my inbox from people across the globe saying that I've inspired them to go vegan because they read a media article about me or because they watched a video on my platform that was going viral. And it usually does trigger a lot of curiosity, and they will end up watching Dominion, or at least a seed is planted. Obviously, I know not everyone's going to change the moment they read a media article or see a video, but it's about creating that social dialogue via media attention and videos, and even people in the moment watching and listening. Like, you can't not talk about that sort of protest. I mean, it really is getting the world speaking about animal rights. And I truly believe that disruptive activism is the most powerful form of activism. I honestly do believe that. But all forms of activism do work hand in hand. I think they're all equally important, but in my opinion, it really is the most powerful. If we do look back into history, for other social justice movements, disruptive activism has been an essential tool to create social change because of the power of media attention and putting it into public dialogue.
Right, right, because it does leave like a lasting impact that way. You know, if there's something left behind after you've been escorted out or after you've left, there's still something left behind. So that's I think why a lot of people criticize it, because, you know, basically they're saying, oh, you're just getting at these, you know, minimum wage workers who have to clean up your mess. But your point is, with the making a mess, is to leave a lasting impact. Did I understand you correctly there?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, from the videos I've watched, Tash, I don't think you always like particularly make a mess, especially not. I don't think not as much recently, do you? It's. I don't think you leave a lot of like fake blood on the floors or anything particular I've seen.
No, I've only done one disruption where I've actually poured fake blood on the floor, and myself and another activist actually cleaned that up after.
Right.
We're not there to cause, like, to antagonize the workers there. We understand they're just in this system and it's not their fault for not knowing the truth and working in these industries. I have nothing inherently against farmers, slaughterhouse workers, etc. So yeah, we did clean up the mess, but the impact of seeing the video pouring the blood on the floor was significant. It got a huge amount of international media attention.
I think that's a lot of people might be out there thinking like what Joy was saying, might be thinking, oh, she's creating this mess for the workers, but they don't see that bit of the video, you know, the bit where you're cleaning up.
It's being twisted a bit in that way, isn't it? Like the whole narrative of, oh, show this crazy vegan that's just making a mess and making everybody miserable. But they don't. They never show how you clean it up yourself, and then, you know, what the entire purpose behind it is. That's, you know, I don't think it motivates people to look it up for themselves. Like, I think you, Mooncat, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said people are going to wonder why somebody does that, and I think that's the point. Is that correct, Tash?
Yeah, definitely. It's to trigger that curiosity and create public discussions about it, and then lead hopefully to the question, wait, why is she even doing this? That just seems so extreme and controversial. I wonder why she's doing this. And they might have a look at my social media, or they might watch Dominion because they heard me shouting about it. So yeah, it is to really create that dialogue and hopefully lead people to see the truth.
I mean, a lot of people out there, as we've just said, do wonder why you do disruptive activism. But I suppose they're the reason why you're having to do disruptive activism. So if they want a reason why you're doing it, it's because they won't stop eating animals and animal products. I mean, if you were just outside your local shop with a placard going, please stop eating animals, there's no press are going to come down and photograph you for the most part.
Exactly.
You know, you're not going to get the word out there. You're not going to get the attention. And a lot of people in your comment sections, which is horrific, by the way. So if anyone wants to go to Tash's comment sections and counteract some of the horrific behavior of people towards her in there, I highly recommend it. I try to do it myself, and I remember.
Thank you.
They are just horrific people. But now I've lost my train of thought. I was too busy having to go at those people. It's terrible. Yeah, but they are the reason you're having to do this. If they don't want you out there, with the pig's head and the butcher suit and the screams of the animals, stop doing it. Stop harming animals. And they have pushed you to this level because it's easy to ignore things that aren't quite as disruptive as what you're doing. It's easy to, even if I put a post on social media, it's easy not to follow me. It's easy, it's easy just to swipe it to the side. But when you're sat there and they're trying to enjoy their corpses on a plate, and you're making them fully aware of it and playing in the screams, there's no escape.
Exactly.
and then that gets out to a much louder audience. I initially, when I first went vegan, I would have probably thought to myself, I wonder what the point of this is. It really that effective? Is all press good press? Which I suppose you get some vegans asking you that question as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do all the time. Sometimes it feels like a lot of the vegan community don't even like me or what I do. It's quite disheartening, but I kind of see them as how I would see a non-vegan, is just maybe initially not understanding the message or the reason for veganism. I see sometimes the same thing as just not understanding the psychology, the history, and the science behind disruptive activism, because I too once questioned it. I mean, in my early days of activism, I started with Anonymous for the Voiceless and the SAFE movement, so more mellow styles of activism and outreaching with the public. And I remember the first time Direct Action Everywhere actually came into Australia, because it started in the US, and it happened to be in my city in Perth. And I remember being at the Cube on this day when the disruption was going to happen at night, talking to the other activists saying, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to go tonight. Like, we don't know what they're going to do because it's all secretive. But I didn't end up going. And this particular disruption happened to be in the very Outback Jack's restaurant that I did my last disruption at, just coincidentally. And it was a group protest, and it received so much media attention. But you just see all this negativity and the media twisting the message and, calling them militant, aggressive vegans. And I couldn't help but feel, well, it's generating so much negativity. How can it be a good thing for animal rights? But I didn't realize that is the key to creating more positive change. All this negativity, we want people to be feeling triggered and upset. It's just how social change works. We shouldn't be giving a message making people feel happy. I mean, yeah, you might get the odd person that might say, I fully agree with you, I'm going vegan, and all happy about it for you telling them the truth. A majority of people will be resistant to the message. You're hurting their ego. You're going against everything they've ever believed. You've made them realize they're an animal abuser. We want this negativity to be happening because that means we know we're reaching the right audience. And I honestly do measure my own success as an activist on the amount of hate that I have, because it just shows that I'm reaching a huge amount of people with the message.
I have a question for you about that, actually, because, it's perfectly fine to, dislike other vegans. You don't have to be, a fan of every single type of activism. But I'm actually wondering, how often do you get those type of questions from people who themselves are activists? Like, get that kind of criticism where it's, this type of activism is bad?
I feel like I get messages quite often, definitely from vegans, saying you're ruining the movement. I don't think what you're doing is good. You need
Do you
to
think
stop,
they're real vegans?
It's kind of
but are they activists? Like, are those people activists? Yeah.
It's difficult to know. I definitely have received messages from other activists saying that I don't like what you're doing. I think you're just doing it for attention. Like, it does happen pretty regularly, but it's kind of difficult to know whether these people are true activists or not. But I know for certain that I have.
And I think the thing is, they're not wrong. You are doing it for attention, but it's not attention for you. I think that's what a lot of people have got to realize. I mean, a lot of people think maybe it's some kind of narcissistic behavior that you've got going on, and you just want the spotlight on you for your own whatever purposes. But there'll be a great deal easier ways to get the spotlight on yourself other than the sorts of things that you do, if that was truly your main aim. I mean, you've got to realize that, like you've said, you're doing this to grab headlines, and you are after attention, but it's not for you. It's for veganism and to open people's eyes and make them think about what their choices are doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everyone sees trying to seek attention as a bad thing, but and when people do call me an attention seeker, I say, well, yeah, kind of no shit I am. I'm seeking attention for the most oppressed beings on this planet. So I need to draw attention to myself to bring attention to them. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we want to just go out there and play documentaries like Dominion, it's just not going to work. It's not going to create that social change, and we need to be getting attention on ourselves to bring attention to the animal holocaust.
You've definitely got to attack on all fronts, really, haven't you? You've got the disruptive activism people, just general day-to-day people on social media, like you did when you first started off. Documentaries, movies, mainstream media. If they could ever get the backsides in gear, would be handy. But I almost feel like the mainstream media in Australia seem against you. You know, they almost seem,
yes.
they just you know, they really do seem to really try to put you in some kind of crazy light. No, and don't get me wrong. Some of the things you do are out there maybe for normal people, but that's what you've designed them to be. So that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But I do feel that they do have a massive bias towards trying to shut you down. I mean, even recently, after some activism that you've done in Outback Jack's, is it? And
Yes.
there was I can't remember the place across the road you went in. I can't remember the name of that one. What was that one?
It was Old Shanghai, so it was
Old
just
Shanghai.
a food court.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And after that, you got a ban from licensed sort of liquor establishments, which includes anywhere that sells alcohol. I can only think this rule shouldn't be applied to a vegan activist and sounds more like a drunk and disruptive individual who's falling around in the pub.
Exactly. They like to twist the law to try and use it against activists. So it's just another way, that like a loophole where they've been able to try and stop me from going into places to protest.
It's really, it definitely shouldn't have been applied to you. Does that affect you in your sort of day-to-day life, apart from when you're you know, when you're not doing activism? Because I almost think this is also got some kind of punitive sort of punishment to try and disrupt your personal life as a deterrent, so you don't carry on with what you're doing like it's going to work. But
yeah.
Yeah, that honestly angered me a little bit. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's all right. You can go. That's fine.
Yeah, that's something that angered me a little bit about an interview that I saw with you. The difference in police response between your actions and the threats that were made towards you. Like, how do you kind of deal with that? Now, if you don't want to answer that because you're in a process, I understand, but that's something that really stuck with me.
Yeah, I mean, I've been receiving some very serious threats for over 2 years now, and whenever, like, I've gone to the police literally in fear of my life on a couple of occasions in the past, and I've been told that there's nothing that they can do about it, and they've never once tried to protect me. But yeah, recently I did receive a call from them saying that they happen to be investigating a particular death threat. And it turns out they found that this person was from the US, so they don't deem that as a serious threat, even though this person was making direct threats towards me. So yeah, it's a bit difficult knowing that I'm not really protected by the system, and it seems to be like everything is completely against me and animal rights activists. And yeah, it is concerning, but I guess I try not to let it worry me. Most people just say whatever they like online and they're never going to act on it. But I obviously know that I still need to consider my safety, and yeah, it can be concerning.
It is hard to fathom from what I would class as a compassionate person's point of view why somebody would want to give you death threats when all you're really doing is speaking up for animals. And I mean, while your activism is very impactful, in my opinion, it generally, unless they were in that restaurant, how did it affect them? You know, at that time, you know, to the point where they have to give you a death threat. And even if they were in the restaurant and you interrupted their meal for 5 minutes, I mean, why would that warrant giving you a death threat? Where does this person or persons actually make that switch to going from I disagree with what she's doing to I think she should die for it. I mean, it's absolutely insane. These people need putting in prison. They're the ones who need, you know, sanctions against them, not you. And it's just amazing that so they know who this person is, but they're in the US. Is that correct? And they're absolutely nothing about it. You know, that's absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely insane. You know, it's only a way if they're that crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And look, they even said that a direct death threat online isn't enough for them to pursue an investigation. Like it, and they said it needs to be like more obvious that they're going to actually commit what they've said. But how are they ever going to know that until someone's actually committed an act of violence? It just, the system itself doesn't make sense to me, because I have screenshots and screenshots of people who I know live in my own city that have sent me quite clear threats, and I can't seem to be doing anything about it. And that's concerning to me when someone in my own city is actually sending me these threats.
That definitely would be. I was going to say, Tash, I do have a video of one of your Outback Jacks here. If we play it, do you want to guide us through the situation and tell us how it all works and what went on? Is that okay with you?
Yeah. No worries.
See what we're actually talking about. If somebody hasn't seen what Tash normally does or anything. So I mean, I'll play it. If the volume's too high, I'll adjust it, or if it's too low, just let me know. Okay, so I'll pause it throughout so you just explain what's actually going on. Okay, so this currently is you going into Outback Jacks to do a disruptive activism. Okay.
The sounds you hear now are the sounds of animals screaming for their lives inside Australian slaughterhouses. They fought until their very last breath. They want to live just like us. Watch Dominion on YouTube to see the truth. See what happens in Australia to the most innocent beings on this planet.
So, so there we go. We've got up to that point. So, what's happening there? So, do you want to guide us through this initial part?
Yeah, sure. So, well, usually with a typical protest, obviously I always have someone that I know that's with me filming the protest. And usually it's usually my boyfriend. On this occasion, I had two activists, my boyfriend and another activist. And we decided this time, because usually when they're filming my protests, the people will try and grab the phones away and the footage gets ruined. So we thought this time that they pretend to actually sit down and be dining in this restaurant. So they were sitting in the restaurant pretending they were about to order something, getting ready to film me. So I've just walked in by myself, which is incredibly nerve-wracking. But, you know, obviously it's something that I'm used to and willing to do, putting myself outside my comfort zone for these animals. So I've had my costume ready for me, which I'm like dressed as a slaughterhouse worker. I've done this quite a few times. So I just have my costume sitting in my wardrobe at home, pop it on, drive into the city, and then I've just walked through into this restaurant by myself. I've got my speaker with me connected to my phone, and I also have another phone in my pocket that's connected to a microphone. I find it really important to get good quality audio.
This is definitely
for my
a little
protests.
different to the way you've normally done it then, because you normally go in with support. But I remember when I was watching your video, you did say the reasoning behind this, though, and that was because I think you were saying that if you all walk in together, when the activism and the disruption starts, then they tend to try and stop the filming and kick out the person with the camera as well. So you're all playing a little bit of a role here, I think, because the person who was filming was like almost against you in this scenario, where they're like on boo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I told them to put their acting hats on and just pretend to be a part of it. Like, you know, I said, oh, just do a bit of a smirk on your face every now and then, look like you're just filming it to get a funny video, just being a hater. And it worked perfectly, because we were able to really capture what people were going to do in their like reacting normally, not knowing they were really being filmed by another activist. Because I think some people are sort of careful when they see other activists filming them, etc. And people thought that I was truly alone in there, and it actually resulted in a man putting me in a headlock. Actually,
Yeah,
I shouldn't have given that
we
away.
got that bit coming up. It absolutely disgusted me, to be fair. As anyone with any kind of decency would think the same thing, to be fair. So if do you want to take that comment off for a sec, Shereen? I'll play the rest, some more of it. Yeah, that's just Sheree. She's in the background, like posting comments for me. So let me just bring this one up again.
Listen to their screams.
So now you've got these staff members chasing after you.
Like carbon dioxide
Yeah.
gas chambers, screaming for their lives.
How long would this kind of, if you were unhindered, how long would you normally stay in an establishment?
Want to live just like us. You have the right to
Usually it's only maybe goes from like a minute to 5 minutes. And sometimes if I feel like I can stay longer, then I'll push it up to 10 minutes. But my protests are usually pretty quick, over and done within a few minutes.
Yeah, normally, to be fair, you will walk out of your own volition with once you've been asked to leave. You might go out with making a bit more vocal, a bit more vocally, but you have, I think, considering what you are doing, you as respectfully as you can. You do leave pretty much whenever we're asked, but does this not get you back up when staff start putting hands on you, though? It wind me up. I'd want to stay longer.
Yeah, exactly. I just sort of like read it, what's happening in the moment, and kind of do how I feel in that moment. I don't really have a specific plan before I go in, and just kind of see how it goes.
Joy.
I'm so unprofessional.
So, I mean, what is the law in Australia? Because I was talking to Grumpy Vegan Grand on another stream that I did the other day, and we were talking about you. And I would have thought that staff members putting hands on an activist such as yourself would be against the law. He thought it may not be, and maybe it's the same as if somebody was getting kicked out of your house. But I would have thought, I mean, as a member of staff, I wonder why they want to put their hands on you as well. I mean, I've worked in shops many years ago, and I would have never forcibly started grabbing somebody to throw them out, or even start pushing them. If I'd really had a problem with them being there and they wouldn't leave, I would be more inclined to call the police before I would start making. Is this just something that happens? Is it like an Australian thing, where is it, or is it just worldwide? I don't know. Are they allowed to lay hands on you?
Yeah, well, I feel like it's a really grey area. From what I understand, if someone refuses to leave a business once they've been asked, then that person working in that business technically has the right to use a forcible way to remove them. In saying that, I have blatantly been assaulted by butchers standing out the front of their business, not even in their business. And I've reported them for assault, and the police have told me that they're not going to press charges of assault because I was disrupting their business. It's absolute insanity. So I feel like when it comes to activism, the law is always against you, and it's able to be twisted even when you're being blatantly assaulted by someone. I mean, I'm not sure if you saw the protest that I did in September last year when I actually went into the cattle ring. That was borderline sexual assault. That was terrible. I was bruised all over my body, and they did not charge that man with assault because apparently he was removing me for my safety, which is absolute bullshit. He clearly wanted to cause harm to me.
He clearly wanted to cause harm, and clearly I think he was had some, I don't know what his motivations were, but they weren't good anyway. I mean, to literally almost rip somebody's lower garments off, while there was no need for him to literally pull your outer garments and your undergarments literally up your bum. Literally, and while grabbing you and forcibly pushing you and gripping you and removing you. I mean, it was horrible to watch.
Bad.
It would not apply in any other context, I think. Like, you have a right to, at some point remove someone from your property, ask them to leave, and, use force to an extent, especially, police have some rights in that regard. But there is such a thing as undue force. And that's, if I have the correct image in my head of the specific case that you're talking about, that is absolutely undue force, like disproportional violence to remove somebody.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's crazy. That's, you know.
I
don't suppose you can expect much better from them, though. I mean, you're literally talking a cattle market where they're selling animals to be abused and killed. They're not going to think twice about sort of like forcibly harming somebody who's trying to stop that harmful thing from occurring, really. So, you know, violence breeds violence, and maybe, you know, when you're around it for a long period of time, you become almost accustomed to it, and don't, you know, and it doesn't really affect you, even if it's human on human after that.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, during that protest, what's not seen on the camera is there were 4 activists with me that day. One of the other activists was actually punched in the face by one of the farmers, and the other activist ended up with broken ribs because he was treated so awfully by, I think, 3 male farmers. And when the police actually arrived on the scene of the protest, which within minutes, they weren't concerned about what had happened to the activists. They were only concerned about giving us a ban from that area and getting rid of us, even though we told them that we'd been assaulted.
We were talking earlier about the press being against you, but it doesn't seem like law enforcement's a great deal better in the area that you're in, to be fair.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned that in the comments a while ago. Let me see if I can find it back. Jivecat, the Magnificent, he made a comment about sometimes people are offended that a woman is getting this much attention. Yeah, I think you found it. Is it sexism as well as anti-veganism? And I think that a lot of people think that women have it easier because they're let off the hook much easier. But I don't know. Like, how do you experience that? Do you experience, first of all, a lot of sexism? And second, do you think that the role of men and women in those types of protests, is there a significant difference there?
Yeah, well, I definitely experience a lot of misogyny, particularly just online on my platform. I've been called so many derogatory terms that are absolutely terrible that I wouldn't even be able to say right now. Can you just repeat again in terms of the protesting, though? Because I'm not quite sure what you mean.
Yeah. Okay, because like you're saying, okay, how can I phrase this best? When we were talking to Grumpy Vegan Granddad, we were talking about how women are sometimes kind of let off the hook. I don't think this is true particularly, but people feel worse about beating up a woman than beating up a man in a lot of scenarios. Do you see a significant difference there when protesting?
Well, yeah, I feel like people aren't afraid to try and cause harm to me, and most of the time it is men that are assaulting me and trying to cause harm to me when I'm out protesting. I honestly can't really think of, like, I know there are lots of male disruptive activists out there, but I can't really think of anyone that sort of does it in a similar way to myself to really be able to compare in terms of the way people react. But I feel like, yeah, men have no issue at all trying to cause harm to me at all. Like, no, I've been assaulted that many times.
I think if we play some more of this video, we can see that at least some of the men that you encounter have absolutely no problem with assaulting a woman. Let's go and have a look at this. I think I'll full screen this one for everyone to see it in its full effect when this occurs, if that's okay. I'll fast forward to it for us. So yeah, if we get back to this, see, so here we go. So you are backing out here anyway.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Do not touch me. You are assaulting me. You are assaulting me.
So there we go. That particular, I'd say, gentleman, it would be completely incorrect to call him that bully of a man. I take it he was just somebody eating at the establishment, was he?
Yes, he was. He was sitting down with his wife and a couple of other friends by the looks of it. The other activist, which I haven't posted that footage yet, he was filming directly behind them. So you can sort of see behind the scenes as to what's going on. But yeah, he just gets out of his seat, his wife is shouting at him to stop, and yeah, he's just come up and done that to me.
What a hero.
You may exactly. You may have missed it, but almost as soon as I think after the first lap I did, in the first moments of being in there, he actually had got out of his seat and poured a glass of water or whatever drink he had on my chest, and then he's gone to sit back down. And yes, yeah, just near like kind of the start, once the staff member is going after me.
Okay.
So I think shortly after she's just come on to me, he's come out, and yeah, he threw a glass of water or whatever.
Was it somewhere? Was it after this?
I think a little bit before.
I'll try that.
It's still when I'm walking.
Do not touch me.
All right, so you're still walking at that time.
To live just like us, you have the right to know the truth.
Go back a bit more.
Last breath.
I'll go here.
They want to live just like us. Watch Dominion on YouTube to see the
Yeah,
truth.
I think it's coming up
See
soon.
what happens in Australia to the most innocent beings on this planet. Listen to their
Yeah, I definitely missed that the first time round.
Yeah, I think it's just coming up in a moment.
screaming for their lives.
Right.
There he goes. Yeah.
How come I missed that? I don't know.
There's a lot happening.
Yeah,
I know, I completely forgot it happened, and then I spotted it in the video.
Like, you're not phased by it at all either. You don't appear phased by it at all.
No, honestly. I mean,
I bet there's a lot of adrenaline going on at that moment.
Exactly, yeah.
So when you were
I'm just focused on my message, and I just want, like, I don't care what's happening around me. I'm just there to keep speaking up, really. I don't try and let anything bother me or distract me. I think it's just so important to just stay focused and keep going.
I think one thing that if I'm allowed to find anything amusing in these scenarios, and which are from their very nature not amusing, is the fact that these people think that they're going to drag you out and just don't realize how strong you are.
Yeah, in the old Shanghai video, that's quite hilarious that he kept so persistent, and I literally knew that I was stronger than him.
I remember watching your video, and he said at some point it just dawned on you, hold on, I'm stronger than this guy, and you just literally pull free from him. And even that guy was trying to headlock you, he couldn't drag you, he was not physically able to move you. I think that's also a bit of a shock, and probably a blow to their ego, because it's only ego that can possibly have brought them up there in the first place.
Yeah, that's it.
And just saying this as somebody who is, maybe a little off topic, but as somebody who has worked a variety of jobs that involve, either serving people or helping people, 99.9% of the cases, we want anybody else to stay out when something like this happens. We want to handle it ourselves. Please don't get up from your seat and try to involve yourself, because that is going to cause nothing but more issues for the personnel. So just to add that.
Definitely.
So do you find these, I don't remember as many violent incidents towards you initially. Do you find there's an increase in bystanders? I got the words the wrong way around. Bystanders involving themselves more, and not just verbally, but physically trying to attack you and move you. Do you find there's an increase in it, or has it always been there?
It has always been there. I remember my very first disruptive protest that I did by myself with a friend filming me. I was assaulted at least, because this was a Christmas Eve protest, and we just said, we are protesting all day. We're going to go from supermarket to supermarket. So I went to about 15, 20 supermarkets in one day. So I got assaulted by males at least several times during that. And that's over 2 years ago now. It hasn't really changed much. I guess it's difficult because I've become more and more involved, but I haven't really I've just seen the same thing throughout my protesting, basically.
I mean, before we came on the stream and we started chatting, I was going to ask you as a question: do you ever get tempted to press charges against these people? But then earlier on, when you first came on the stream, we were talking, and you said the police aren't interested for the most part. Is that one of the reasons maybe why for instance, the person in Outback Jacks and the person who had hold of you in the Shanghai restaurant, the food court across, is one of the reasons why you don't call anyone about them is because you don't think much will be done, or is there another reason why you don't push charges against these people?
Yeah, it's probably mostly because I just don't like, if I've been borderline sexually assaulted by someone and the police aren't going to press charges, then what are they going to do about a man putting me in a headlock or grabbing my wrists? In saying that, I think I will be pressing charges against these people, because usually the police have the excuse of, well, they are considered a business owner and you're disrupting their business, so we're not pressing charges. Whereas these people were actually customers, so I might have a better chance of someone being charged for their actions if they're a customer. So I will pursue that incident for sure.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it just seems strange that these people seem to think they can get away with it, and maybe people. Do you think that there's a high level of influence by people with a vested interest in not wanting vegan activism, especially stuff that grabs headlines, such as animal agriculture, etc. Do you think they could be influencing the press in Australia and the behaviour of the police in some way?
Yeah, definitely. I believe so. I mean, animal agriculture is rampant in Australia, especially in Western Australia, which is the state that I'm in. And I feel like there's just huge protections in the system to prosecute animal activists. I personally know a few activists that liberated one bobby calf from a dairy farm, and they were literally facing decades in jail.
Really?
They didn't go to jail, but liberating one baby was giving them like the opportunity to pretty much be in jail almost. So yeah, the laws here are incredibly strict.
Yeah, I don't think we're in the UK. I don't think we potentially have the same overreaction. I don't know.
Yeah.
We definitely have an overreaction, but I don't think it's to the level, and I don't think the police generally would tolerate as much from my experience with them as and they would take your claims a lot more seriously. Maybe it's just cultural differences, I'm not sure, or maybe it is the influence of some kind of like bigger picture there. But either way, it's just not acceptable. The other thing I was going to want to talk to you about is obviously we're talking about your disruptive activism in the type of things that we've seen in the video that we were just looking at, but you also do a different form of activism to obviously get attention for veganism, which is you don't wear many clothes.
Yes.
So
yeah,
do you want to go through that with us a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I thought, what better way to use my body for others who have no bodily autonomy? So, as I mentioned before, like, creativity in my costumes is a significant part of my activism to grab attention. And I came up with the idea for the first kind of protest where I went topless. It was at the end of 2020, and I decided to dress as a dairy cow. And I had my cow onesie tied around my waist, and got my boyfriend and myself. We did a paint job on the upper part of my body to be the print of a dairy cow, and I put blood on my breasts, and it ended up being a very impactful protest because, I don't know, everyone wants to hear about and talk about a topless woman because society just has this massive thing about topless women, especially here in Western Australia. I ended up actually being criminally charged for that protest for disorderly conduct purely because of the fact that I was topless. It's just insanity.
Yeah,
and then
videos where there does seem to be definitely a double standard. I mean, that's everywhere, I suppose, for the most part.
Yeah.
Is that men can walk around with their chest out as much as they like. A woman does, and before you know it, the charges have been brought. It's very, very peculiar, I've always thought.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I guess my creativity continues to evolve as I evolve as an activist. And I did my protest in Louis Vuitton last year and thought, why not take it to the next level and pretty much be almost naked and go in there? I mean, it's not so much about me thinking, oh, how can I be topless or naked this time? It's how can I be creative with my body or my costume and relate that to my message. And my message was for Louis Vuitton that I would rather be naked than wear someone else's skin. So using my costume with that message worked perfectly. And I put blood all over my topless body and the upper half of my legs to suit that message. And I personally believe that was probably the most powerful protest I've ever done. And I think it's because I was almost naked. Whenever someone sees me out in the street, they recognize me. And the first thing they'll say is, I remember you in Louis Vuitton. Like everyone remembers that protest and that message. And it was just so impactful that I think, you know, using my body is a brilliant way to bring more attention to animals who have no freedom over theirs.
I think that's really cool how you, I think it's really cool how you managed to take something that's, well, illegal and in my opinion, in an unjust way, and, you know, make it into something powerful. Like, you know, I'm all for free the boobie, but the fact that it's not legal at the moment makes it so much more powerful. So yeah, just wanted to add that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. It is very cool.
Do you think, obviously you've told us on the stream now, and everyone watching knows the underlying reason why you chose to go in naked was the thought process of I'd rather wear my own skin than somebody else's. Do you think the press and the sort of the wider public sort of lost that part of it and just thought you were attention seeking with no underlying reason for the nakedness, or do you think that part of the message got through as well?
Look, it's a bit of both and both. I feel like if I'm clothed or not, the media is going to create a narrative that is not, you know, pro animal rights. They want to make you out to be that crazy vegan animal rights activist, whether you're in clothes or not. They're always going to be against you. But I mean, of course, yeah, when you're naked, I guess it's like extended even further, trying to make, you know, they were like crazy about it. Like, oh, this militant vegan was naked in front of children. She had period blood on her body. Like, look how insane she is. But they're still playing the video about me speaking, saying, watch Dominion on YouTube. This is what's happening to animals. They're still quoting the words that I'm saying about what's happening to animals and watching Dominion. So it's always going to be that way in terms of media reporting until we get, you know, animal rights into the mainstream. But yeah, I think that's just still, you know, even if they're not talking about animal rights at all, I think it's still a powerful way to get a message across, because people, again, are going to be curious, and a lot of the time they'll come onto my social media pages or they'll watch Dominion because they heard me say it in the video, and they'll see the truth.
So you're obviously quite a big advocate for disruptive activism, though. You think it's obviously a very impactful way of advocating for the animals, and I completely agree with you. Would you recommend that other people who are looking to get into activism, then I assume the answer is yes, but would you assume would you recommend that they look into disruptive activism themselves as a way and really scale it out, if you will, I don't want to say clone you, but having people doing a similar way of approach in their own individual ways. Obviously, I'm not saying directly copy everything you're doing, but disruptive activism is definitely something that should be spread out more over the vegan community. I mean, how do you think it works in comparison to maybe more gentler versions of activism, such as standing in the street and having conversations? I know they all have their place, and I don't think there's any particular science to say one is particularly more effective than the other, and well, nothing that's published anyway. But would you say that we definitely need more disruptive activism?
Yeah, I think we do, because yeah, as I said before, I feel like a lot of the vegan community really just don't understand how important it is, and it puts a lot of people off because maybe they're too afraid to do something that seems as so extreme in society, which is completely understandable. It's a very difficult thing to do and put yourself out there. But if there is a direct action everywhere in your local area, it's a brilliant way to do disruptive activism in a group environment and be with like-minded people speaking up. I mean, disruptive activism doesn't have to be as loud and intense as the type of disruptive activism that I do. It can literally still be standing in a supermarket not even speaking out. You could be standing there with a sign and you're still technically disrupting the status quo by putting yourself into that situation. So yeah, I think direct action everywhere has heavily influenced the way that I do my unique protesting by myself. And I just found it really enjoyable and it suited me. I mean, as I said before, like I've tried all styles of activism. I love them all, but I personally really enjoyed doing disruptive activism. And I think it's so important if you want to be sustainable as an activist to find what is going to work for you in the long term, because if you're going to burn out immediately, that's no good for the animals. And I think we can all use our interests and our talents and our strengths to speak up for animals in our own form. But yeah, I definitely recommend for everyone to at least give it a go and not, push yourself out of your comfort zone, because I think you'll be grateful that you did.
Yeah, I was going to actually talk to you about that because you mentioned burnout there. Obviously, you know, when you don't appear to be burnt out in any way at the moment. You look like you're
No.
full throttle. To be fair, could you
Yeah.
see sometime in the future, maybe with this, you would a bit like Gary Yourofsky when he sort of passed the torch for the types of things that he was doing. Says, all right, so it's you guys. Do you think there's a point where you would say, okay, maybe I'll do a different way of it, or you're just going to keep going for as long as you can and not even think about that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously it's hard to tell in like the long-term future, but I feel like at the moment I just want to keep going and doing my thing. I don't feel like I'm going to reach a point of burnout anytime soon, so I just want to keep going, and I feel like I can keep going for many, many years down the track.
Yeah, that's yeah. Well, let's hope so. Let's hope you can. Well, definitely will. And we're glad to see you doing it. VL now, does VganBooty acknowledge that disruptive activism will create some enemies of veganism? The question is, does it win over more than it angers? That's a question from the chat.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like what I said before about measuring my own success by the amount of haters that I have. I mean, I acknowledge that my disruptive activism is not going to change every single person that sees and hears about it there and then. It's about planting a seed and making people aware. And a lot of people that, really hate me so much, these enemies, as you say, are obsessively on my social media pages every day, listening to the message of animal rights that I post every day. And I have no doubt that they're going to change later down the track, because they become so obsessive and hateful that, they claim they're eating more animals because of my activism, and maybe they are, but at the end of the day, there are thousands and thousands of people who are messaging me saying that I've inspired them and even their families to go vegan. And I have had some people who have called me really horrible names, saying that they're eating more animals because of me, and then 6 months down the track, they've retracted their statement, apologized to me, and said, actually, I'm vegan now. I'm sorry that I was so horrible to you. And I honestly sometimes think that the people that react in the most negative ways to this activism are the ones that are mostly triggered because they realize they're hypocrites and they initially let it out on the messenger, and later down the track, I almost feel like they're more likely to go vegan because they just get so triggered by it.
Yeah, I think the keyword here is, and I think Nikki Espinosa left a very apt comment there. The keyword is create, because what he said is the same is true of activism or the truth. It doesn't change people, it reveals people. And I think that is absolutely true. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, it's all a part of social change.
There was one out of there. Well, it's in my head, and then Sheree, do you want to see if you can go through the chat and see if there's any questions from people in there as well that we can pop up in a moment? Just make sure we're paying some attention to them there, because they've been kind enough to come out. I was going to ask you a question that's been plaguing on me for quite some time, to be honest, and I think it bothers me more than it should. Why does Isaac Butterfield obsess with you? Why is he so obsessed? I mean, he's obviously got something wrong in his mind for vegans generally, but he does seem to have a particular obsession with you. I mean, I know you were on his podcast, weren't you? Did you reveal why he just can't leave you be?
No, he didn't. But that ended up being pretty good podcast. Like he obviously has no argument or whatsoever, and he tried to turn it into a comedy show because he's a comedian, etc. But I think a lot of the people listening to the podcast who are his followers and fans really enjoyed that podcast, and they were able to kind of understand the animal rights message.
You made some
it went really well.
You were awesome in the podcast, and he attempted to be a comedian several times and failed.
Yeah.
Maybe a new career. Maybe he could go vegan, be an activist.
Yeah, well, he actually messaged me the other day because he has a rescue greyhound, and he called out an Australian politician who was at a greyhound racing event. And I made a post saying that it's great to hear you speaking out for greyhounds, Isaac. Maybe one day you'll speak up for the animals who are abused and murdered in the same way as your precious greyhounds in the meat, dairy, egg, leather, wool, etc. industries. And he responded to that saying that he was interested in creating a documentary about the greyhound industry, which is awesome. Like, for me to be able to hopefully be involved in that too, and hopefully like get that message clicking in his mind that he is a hypocrite and he's abusing animals.
Exactly. Well, he can have a whole new range of merch when he goes vegan. You know, he can make profit for a good reason for a change. That'd be awesome for him.
Yeah, it would be.
He could, he could get a whole new set of jokes then as well. Feel now, how does VganBooty? Oh, it's gone. It's gone. You took it away from me, Cherie. I was reading.
Sorry, I'll bring it back.
She just whipped it away mid-sentence. What kind of carry on is that? Can you find it back, Cherie? Have you lost it now?
I've lost it.
Oh, for the love of... Don't take this one off the screen. I'll read this one. Sorry about the other one. Hopefully she'll pop it up when she finds it. Is it a tactic for you not to be forceful to people when on non-vegan podcasts? So do you sort of like pair your behavior, sort of, tailor it towards your audience, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like I communicate the animal rights message very forwardly. So I'm not really sure about the term forceful. Like I'm not, in a disruptive protest where I'm just gonna, continue my message on. I want to have like a civil dialogue with these people. I want to come from a place where, going back to me when I was 23 years old and I wasn't vegan, sort of back in that mindset of the brainwashing and the conditioning. So I want to come from a place where I can sort of communicate the message to them and their followers who are listening in a more like civil dialogue. So I think maybe that answers what you're trying to ask me.
I mean, that's I think I like that question. Just use the fact, I think this is a bit like when we were talking when people try to commit physical violence against you and then they realize they're not strong enough to remove you. They have this expectation that maybe, like you're a weak vegan or something else. I'm not sure. And I think sometimes when you go onto other things that maybe with people who are non-vegan, they anticipate that you're going to be something you're not. They anticipate you to be, because they got this vision in their head that you're like this crazy activist who does these things. They expect you to be unhinged almost when you go on.
Yeah.
But you're that measured and intelligent and with all the right arguments and answers for everything. I think it throws them a little bit. They may be trying to poke you into some kind of behavior, but they don't realize, that the disruptive thing's one thing, but you've got everything else to back it up as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a really good feeling after these podcasts because, as you said, most of them do have this preconception in their mind and they're like, oh, here we go. This is going to be interesting. She's going to be screaming and shouting at me. And then I just sit down and have this excellent dialogue about animal rights and the purpose of my activism and who I am, etc. And I always get a very good feeling after doing a podcast because they'll be shocked and they always have a smile on their face afterwards and they'll say, wow, I really admire what you do. I really am starting to understand the animal rights message.
And live stuff's good as well, when you're doing podcasts, because it's hard to, you don't edit as much of it out, which I like. I sort of like live stuff because you can't be creatively edited, and take words out of context. You've got the raw footage out there. Even if you do a smaller edit at some point, the raw footage is still available for a lot of stuff, which I really, really like about live stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's really good.
Josh is asking, do you get recognized a lot in Western Australia in general day-to-day life, and does this affect your activism?
Yes, I definitely get recognized a lot. I mean, I don't really notice it so much myself, but sometimes, yeah, when I'm out with my boyfriend, he'll say, oh, yep, that person's recognized you. Oh, yep, that one's giving you the evils. And yeah, I think a perfect example about this kind of thing affecting my activism is when I did that protest inside the cattle ring. It was actually a full event, so I had to put myself in disguise because otherwise I knew that I wouldn't be allowed in this event if they recognized me. So it doesn't really affect it so much. I think it's actually really nice because most of the time when I'm out in public, I'll get really positive comments from people coming up to me asking for a photo and saying they love my work, which is surprising because I would expect that I'd get a lot more people kind of saying, oh, fuck you, vegan, terrorist, etc. But it really is the opposite when I'm out in public, and it's so nice to see more and more people kind of coming up to me saying that they like my work. I think that's a perfect sign that change really is happening. But yeah.
That's great. I mean, have you got the one about the comment up there, Cherie, from VL now about the humorous thing? You see that?
Yes.
Well, do you want to take that one? All right, let's read this one that's on screen. I've got something in my way here. I'm so glad I made it for the stream. I have a tremendous amount of absolute respect for all you do for other beings we share the planet with. Tash, you've actually inspired me to go to do outreach in their public in my town.
Awesome.
That's
that's
really
so
good.
good to hear.
Let's
I
give
think
them
that
claps for
the
that.
best thing I ever did, coming second after turning vegan, is becoming an animal rights activist.
I forgot how long the claps go on. Sorry. Well, there we go. We cleared that. Yeah, well done for starting some activism there. That's absolutely amazing. There was another comment which I'm not sure who's found, but I'll read it anyway. I've got it here. Is humorous activism basically another way forward? I mean, from my point of view, I mean, I don't know if you've watched any of my videos, Tash, maybe not, but I do have this silly edge about me, and I try to be humorous on a lot of my things, and I think that's just another way. I mean, some people, have one path which will reach people, and some people have a different way of doing it, which can reach them. I think there's no bad way. Activism for the animals is activism, and we hit them on all fronts, in my opinion, and get as many as we can. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people connect with humor, and I think that's a brilliant way. But yeah, as you said, like, there's just so many varieties of activism. Not everyone's going to change from one form of activism, and we need as many varieties out there of non-violent activism as possible.
Definitely. Is there anything that you want to bring up, Joy? Have you seen any comments that you would like to discuss, or anything?
Yeah, I plucked a few from the chat now. Sorry, I wasn't paying all that much attention. I was just scrolling through the comments, seeing if I could find anything. I found a few things. Somebody asked about VL now, asked about is fur still even a thing? I thought it was very uncool for about a decade now. It's still very much a thing in my experience. People are often way more freaked out about fur than about leather, though. But what is your experience in that, Tash?
Yeah, I mean, you would have imagined that it'd be pretty outdated by now because it seems like a majority of the public are against the fur industry. And I think it is that way, but it still shocks me when I get people in my inbox kind of sending me posts from these Instagram influencers who are young people wearing fur saying, oh my gosh, Tash, call out this person. I can't believe she's wearing fur. So that's like really shocking to me to see young people being like glamorous models wearing someone else's fur. So unfortunately, yeah, it's still something that exists.
I think if you ask most people on the street, they would, like Joy was saying, most people think it is now sort of relegated to the past, and would assume that most people wearing anything that looks like fur is man-made. It's actually hard to believe. Do you think it's on some of these younger influencers and people? Are they trying to make it a little bit of a resurgence? Would you think that maybe they're back from maybe companies that have said, do you want to promote our fur products because the business is declining and we're trying to get some trade back in, so we'll pay you X amount of money to promote these things and try and make them look cool.
Yeah, I reckon you're probably right there. Probably a lot of it is paid promotions. In fact, I've recently seen a lot of Australian kind of social media influencers getting paid by a company called Australian Good Meats. And they're getting paid to make posts eating animal flesh. And I think it's just a sign, as you said, that the industry is getting desperate. So they're starting to pay these people to try and make it look cool and influence others to participate in animal abuse.
I mean, I suppose that's sorry, Joy. I was going to say, I think this is any sort of industry that starts a bit of a decline or just wants to promote themselves. They do tend to go to celebrities, and obviously a lot of social media people are the new celebrities now compared to like traditional movie stars, etc. In the old days, the cigarette companies used to get famous people or even like whatever to pose with cigarettes or leather jackets or eat a burger. It's nothing new, but fur's a new one. They really must be struggling. Most people, 99.9% on people on the street do not. Obviously, they're still doing other things they shouldn't be doing, but you would assume that they don't support fur. But I definitely think there's been a bit of a reaction from the fur industry to try and combat that, but I don't think it's going to have that much of an effect.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's no longer it's not a useful product, right? So they're really trying to sell it as some sort of status symbol, like, oh, I can afford real fur, or oh, I can afford real leather, or something like that. So that's really the angle they're taking. And I don't know, like, it's influencers can do a lot. They can do a lot of good, but sponsorships are extremely powerful in my experience, unfortunately.
Definitely. Josh is asking, why do you think so few vegans are activists? There's not many of us to begin with, I suppose. We are quite a small minority, so it may appear, but I don't know what the actual percentage of vegans are active. And as I say, there's different forms of activism, including stuff such as social media posts, wearing vegan apparel. There's different levels, I suppose, but do you think it's a small percentage of vegans that are actually active, Tash and Joy?
Yeah, well, as you said, it really is difficult to measure, but at the same time, sometimes I do feel like it just seems like there's not many vegans that are active. I guess sometimes when I look into my local vegan groups on Facebook, etc., sometimes it doesn't even sound like half of these people are even vegan, to be honest. And it's just crazy that some of these people are saying that they're vegan, but then they're talking like a human supremacist, and it's just really confusing to me. But yeah, I feel like so many people don't want to be active because of fear, putting yourself out there and going against the status quo. I think it's a really difficult thing to do. Everyone wants to fit in, and I feel like that's where the term like apologist vegan, etc., or pick me vegan is sort of being created, because there's so many vegans that think, oh, well, if I want to be that vegan that everyone likes, I think that's going to be a better way to, promote veganism, by not actually talking about animal rights, by just saying, oh, look, you can get a vegan cupcake instead of an animal abuse cupcake. But yeah, I don't know. It's difficult.
Yeah, definitely. Joy, have you got any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Sticking out your neck is scary. And I think especially because a lot of younger people are vegan. Like, I'm not saying younger people can't be, influential and brave, but it's difficult when you find yourself in a smaller environment, like a high school or, maybe even a middle school, to stick out your neck like that, because you're just a little bit more fragile, and the group around you is so much more important than it is in your adult life. So maybe that's also a factor that plays into it. It's often fun as a teenager or someone in your early 20s to kind of experiment with boundaries, and like you dye your hair a silly color or something like that, and you will get backlash from that, but it's still within the level of comfort because nobody feels criticized or threatened by that. once you become vegan and you start spreading these ideas that, hey, maybe, you know, the majority of people is doing something wrong, like, you know, you're criticizing a behavior, that's where it becomes scary, because isolation is scary, and you know, sticking out your neck means it may get cut off. At least that's my experience.
Definitely. Somebody mentioned before, why do we think there's not as many vegan men? I don't know the answer. I know a lot of male vegans and, you know, females as well. I mean, it's probably an even split from my personal experience, to be fair. I don't know. Is there actually I mean, if I look on my YouTube stats, for instance, it's pretty much 50-50. And I don't. Would you find that there's a lot more females, Tash, or is it a bit of a split for you?
Yeah, I feel like it's probably a bit of a split. Like, I feel like very recently I'm seeing more and more men go vegan than maybe initially when I first went vegan, and getting involved in activism too. So I'd say from my experiences and surroundings, it's probably pretty split.
Maybe it just took men longer to get to put their ego in check. We
Yeah.
tend to be a little bit more egotistical. Maybe I don't want to be a generalization there, but, you know, from my personal experience, men do have more ego than women do, and yeah, it maybe takes them a while to get it in check.
Maybe there's also more of a social boundary to overstep for men, because, you know, being vegan is not manly or generally considered manly.
Yeah.
You know, you got to eat steak and you got to, you know, chop wood and stuff.
Barbecue.
It doesn't fit within that stereotype that a lot of men feel they need to, you know, adhere to. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I think that probably is, but it's good to see that stereotype being smashed with,
Definitely.
you know, documentaries like The Game Changers and all these fit, healthy-looking vegan blokes
definitely
inspiring other men. Like, it's a domino effect, and I think that's why we are seeing more men become vegan.
What I do notice is that a lot of, like what you're saying, Mark, a lot of prominent vegan activists are often men. While statistically, I believe statistically a lot more women are vegan than men.
I'm not sure where the stats from. That's all.
Yeah.
You know,
So let me look up if I can find some stats of that. Maybe that's interesting.
While you're looking at that for us, Joy, Teresa Jose is asking, can you really be vegan if you don't advocate? Would that mean they're just plant-based? I would say they are vegan, and I've got my own reasons for saying that. But if you want to, do you want to speak to that, Tash? See what you have to say on that one?
Yeah. So if they're not contributing to any form of animal exploitation, abuse, or murder, which means they're not consuming meat, dairy, eggs, any other animal products, they're not wearing animal products, they're not contributing to animal entertainment, testing, etc., then yes, by definition, they are vegan. They're not deliberately contributing to animal exploitation. But I would say that I believe vegans do have a moral obligation to be speaking up in one way or another. If they're not speaking up, that doesn't mean they're not vegan. It just, in my belief, it just means that they should be speaking up for animals, and they should be an animal rights activist.
Yeah, so definitely still vegan. I think it would be what we think, but it would be nice if they did speak up in any way that they can, even if that's just a social media post, maybe stickering, attending a local thing, starting a YouTube channel, starting anything really, anything that they can do. I understand that it can be difficult for a lot of people to juggle things, so even the little things count. We just so whatever they can do, but I would definitely say they're still vegan, definitely by the definition.
Yeah, I agree.
Are you still looking, Joy?
Yeah, I'm still looking. I found a few things. Vegan Society. I got something. Okay, this is not conclusive. Okay, I'd have to do more research for me to be actually satisfied with this. But I am seeing that in independent surveys commissioned by the Vegan Society in 2019, UK vegans have been reported as quadrupling between blah, blah, blah of the population, blah, blah, blah. Most commonly following a vegan diet were women aged between 18 and 34 years. found that twice as many women as men were vegan, which is echoed in the statistics from the USA report Bayer in 2020. And it goes on a little bit more about that, but it goes about vegetarianism. But specifically veganism, apparently in the UK, you are twice as likely to be vegan if you're a woman.
Well, that was sort of more in 2019 there, from what they said, isn't it? I mean, I think things are moving a lot quicker now. So maybe it's more recently that a lot of men are gravitating more towards veganism, seeing and making that choice. So maybe if they redid the survey now, it may show it a different split, to be fair.
Yeah, maybe that's entirely possible.
The 40-year-old vegan here is saying it's disheartening that we have so many vegans who could be active but aren't. We also have some who can't be, who donate and share posts, which is great. So yeah, I think that's just what we've been sort of saying. Yeah, it would be nice if more people, in my opinion, were active, but you know, the minimum that they're doing, the minimum thing to do is to stop being part of the problem and to take yourself out of all these industries, meat, dairy, clothing, and everything else. And that's a good thing to do. But yeah,
maybe this one. Maybe this one by that's the one. Thank you so much, Shuri. Very quick.
I'll let you Joy, because I don't want to hear too much of my own voice. You want to hear. You
don't. Oh, okay.
I can't stand silence. Like I said, that's all it is.
Yeah, he has a really hard time with it. We should do it later again, just for fun. Now, All Animals Lives Matter says, my anxiety is so bad, my heart feels like it will come out of my chest. I want so badly to affect people, but I know I will look crazy. Yeah, what do you think about that, Tash, before I go into that?
Yeah, well, it's really difficult one to answer. I mean,
do you deal with anxiety yourself in that, when you're doing a protest or?
No, I still get incredibly nervous before I protest. But I wouldn't really say that I suffer from anxiety. I guess like some things that I experience as an activist definitely, make me feel a bit anxious, but I don't think I've truly ever experienced anxiety. So it's difficult to answer a question to someone who truly feels that way. And I don't think disruptive activism would be for someone who suffers from anxiety that badly. But there are so many other ways where you may be able to speak up where it won't trigger feelings of anxiety. I mean, we're so fortunate to have social media now to spread a message that you can do activism from home in your own comfort. There are so many ways that you can speak up without having to put yourself in positions where you may not, be able to cope with that mentally.
Yeah, because obviously, if you're wanting to get in activism, like Tash says, you want to do something that's sustainable for yourself. If you're going to affect your own physical or mental well-being really detrimentally, then you're not going to be helpful to yourself, your family, or the animals. It just wouldn't work out well. So yeah, find something that you can cope with, and maybe build up gradually. Maybe that's something you could do. Start off with small things, and then just sort of like exposure therapy almost, and do little things that you can cope with, and just build up that way until you get to a different level of and hopefully. And maybe see somebody to assist. I mean, a lot of people who obviously, I mean, I'm no expert. I would think if you're feeling anxious about many things in life, you're just generally an anxious person, maybe, and this is nothing to do with veganism, maybe go speak to somebody who can help you try to use different techniques to get past that, just to help you in your own personal life, not necessarily just veganism. That would be a good way. I mean, I keep threatening that I'll go to therapy to help me with things, because I'm like everyone else. We've all got different aspects that we want to improve upon, and having a professional help us with that sometimes can be really good. I don't mean that in any kind of offensive way, because it's just my opinion. So I don't. Is there anything else that you want to cover, Tash, while you're on? Anything you want to speak about?
Not really. I could give you a bit of an update about a little experience that I had today, if you're interested in hearing.
Okay, yeah, well, definitely. I'll full screen you. Let's go.
Sure. Well, it was yesterday morning. I received a very disturbing image in my Instagram inbox, and this image was of an individual's head, a pig. The head was wrapped in plastic, and it was for sale for $13 on the tag. the price tag on it. And this price tag actually had my full name, Tash Peterson, on it. So this person obviously thought that they were funny to put my name on this poor individual's head who was being sold for $13. Now this supermarket / butcher happened to have, you know, their logo on this price tag. So I decided to pay them a visit today with my boyfriend, and we thought we'd, there we go, there's the head. We thought we'd film our confrontation with this butcher who thought he was so funny to make such a sick joke about this poor individual and myself being an animal rights activist. So if you'd like to see what we did today, I've just popped it up on my YouTube channel. Yeah, this guy apologized because his boss told him to, and he had a smirk on his face, and yeah, it was pretty sickening, but yeah, we thought we'd confront him and have a chat about it and see what happened.
That's absolutely disgusting. I mean, not only is it vile that that poor individual has been murdered and their heads in cling film in the first place, so then put your name on there and start sending it and whatever. It's just I can't fathom what goes on in people's minds.
How is this not perceived as a threat almost? Because this is some Godfather type of stuff. Right, that's where my mind goes right now. That's so weird.
It is. It's just truly disturbing. And I say this in my latest YouTube video about what we did today, that unfortunately it's something that I'm very used to. I receive disturbing images very regularly from people working in these industries who think they're so funny to send me images of decapitated animal body parts and animals that they've murdered. It's truly horrific, but at the end of the day, these sick individuals are only going to expose the industries even more, and that's why I'm going to post these images and expose them and make videos about it, because, you know, if you're a normal everyday person, you're going to be shocked when you see something like this, and maybe it might trigger some curiosity to say, actually, I'm paying those people to do that to those poor animals, etc. So yeah,
definitely. I mean, normal people, like you say, they are involved in the system. They're in the matrix, if you will, and they are indoctrinated into the system. But they still, I would think, I would hope that most people don't like this kind of behavior and this kind of thing. And once they see it, it may push them into making a change, or at least thinking about the choices that they're making and who they're supporting. That would be what you would hope anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we've probably kept you long enough. We've been on a while now. I think we're up to over a couple of hours in total. I'd like to definitely thank you for coming. Sorry about getting the times mixed up there. I appreciate you hopping on anyway.
That's okay. Sorry, I was a bit late.
No worries. I think it's me that's got that wrong. And everyone, go over and support Tash. Do you want to say your Instagram name? Because I always get mixed up with which one it is.
Yeah,
they did try to silence you on there as well, didn't they?
Yeah, I do have 2 Instagrams. My main one at the moment is VganBooty 3. Vegan spelt with no E in it. But every moment, like, I feel like I'm getting closer to losing that account, because I just get continuous violations that aren't even violating the guidelines, etc. So I do have a backup one that's just VganBooty, spelt VGAN Booty.
And you are also on YouTube, obviously, which is seems a lot more less likely to be cancelled on a whim there from my experience. It's
yeah, definitely.
So, you know, go follow Tash on YouTube as well. You can see all the activism that she does on there as well. Are you on Twitter or Facebook or any of these other platforms?
Yeah, my biggest platform is actually on my Facebook. You can just search Tash Peterson, and you should be able to find it. I'm probably most consistent on my Facebook. You'll be catching all my stuff on there. I'm trying to be a bit more consistent with my YouTube as well. And I feel like I've given up on Instagram a little bit. I don't really use Twitter that much.
TikTok?
Oh, I used to be. TikTok was my favorite platform, and I'm literally censored from that platform. I lost my
a bit like
TikTok
with that
account.
vegan teacher there then.
Yeah, I lost my account with 180,000 followers over a year ago now, And I have continually tried to create new accounts on the platform since then, and they just get removed even without violations immediately almost. It's crazy.
It's
So
insane.
unfortunately, I can't use it.
All right, sorry to hear that, but go
Yeah.
follow and subscribe on all the other platforms. As I say, get in the comment sections as well. Back Tash up. Make sure you counter these crazy people. So Tash knows that she's doing. I'm sure she does anyway. But she knows from all us vegans that we all appreciate it. She's doing a fantastic job. We really appreciate her standing up for the animals and putting herself out there, you know, and really making a difference. So we all love you, no matter. And so keep up the fantastic work. Thanks to Joy as well. She came on to back me up because I was mumbling to myself and just not having a great time. So she came to save me from silences, which I really appreciate. And thank you for being part of the stream as well, Joy, and asking some great questions and helping out. That's been amazing co-host. And I think I'll give you all an extremely long clap.
Yeah, thanks so much. No, I was poking fun at you a little bit, but I'm very grateful for being able to be here today and actually getting to talk to Tash. Thank you so much, Tash. It was really, it increased my understanding of your type of activism and what you do and why you do it. And I absolutely love that. Yeah.
And also, I'd like to thank everybody in the comments section as well. You've all been great. Thank you for all your questions. Sorry there, Tash. I didn't mean to speak over you.
That's okay.
Lag on there. I didn't realize you were speaking until I was already going.
That's fine.
Not that silence.
Yeah, but thanks everyone in the chat. You've been fantastic. Thanks for all coming up and asking all these questions. It's absolutely great. And don't forget to go subscribe to Joy as well. She's got great videos all about veganism, you know, bees, music related, and other such things. So go over and subscribe to Level Joy on all the platforms. That's been great. Yeah, and is there any last words from you guys that you want to say, Tash, or anything?
No, not really. I just want to thank you both. That was a really good conversation and it was lovely to chat with you. So thanks for having me on.
No worries, and thanks for coming on. I think everyone's enjoyed speaking to you and hearing everything you've got to say. So, and well, that's it, everyone. It's always weird. How do I end the streams? It's like, I just got right, bye. But Tash and Joy, are you okay to stay on when the stream ends, just for a quick moment?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, even though it'll end, we'll still be on the chat. Thanks again, everybody. Take care, and thank you for coming. It's been great.